So you said that Brady took you guys lots of places. Can you tell me about some of the places he took you?
Oh, Depre's.
All local. He was not a world traveler.
Would go into town for ice cream. It'd always take you to Depre's because he'd go shopping there. And, Colonel Depre was an interesting character. Uh, Grandpa always dressed in his blue pants, blue work shirt, not fancy at all. He'd get dressed up, same pair of pants, but they'd be in gray with a white shirt if he really wanted to get gussied up. But and then it'd probably wash up a little bit. But he always looked like a pauper. And one of the fun stories of shopping with him, he went into Depre's to buy some hinges one afternoon, and the clerk behind the counter didn't know who he was. He's a young kid, and looked at this old guy and wondered if he could even afford hinges. So he started digging under the counter and the used hinges in the boxes to see if he could find some that the old man would be able to afford. And Grandpa wouldn't correct him. He'd just say, okay, yeah. And all of a sudden, Colonel Depre came up on the stairs, and he looks down. He goes, "Hey, Brady, how you doing?" Right? And he goes, "Oh, I'm doing all right." Grandpa would have bought these used hinges, trust me. If they were serviceable, he would have bought them. And Colonel Depre says, "What you needing?" He says, "Well, hinges." He says, "Whoa, wait a minute here." He says, "Let's get the good ones." So he gets and climbs the ladder and he gets the box with the expensive ones to bring down. And the young clerk kind of looked, okay, what'd I do wrong? But that's the kind of things they do. He liked to go to the steam engine shows. They'd take you to sales.
Took us to Friendship.
Yeah, took us to Friendship. Oh, and Friendship used to be a beautiful place. It had a flea market that went 2 miles wide and 7 miles long. It was great. But it sold gun parts. Primarily all gun parts, and now you go down there and it's just commercialized junk. So.
And on Sundays there was a clay pigeon shoot out in the field. The gun club was out there. Grandpa was a man's man. My first shooting experience was when I was 4 years old, and my hands were too small for a regular sized gun, so we found a Derringer so I could shoot it. If you were any part of the Meltzer family, you could shoot. And I know. Safety was absolute. All guns were always loaded all the time. And to my knowledge, there has never been there's no wood. A gun accident with the Meltzer thank you. A gun accident with the Meltzer family, because we had total respect for them. And all the 500 guns in the house, some of them were loaded. They really were, because you were supposed to know what to do with a gun. So safety first, always and forever. He was, like I said, a man's man, but we always got to have so much fun. Everything about my grandfather that I can remember, every time I think about him, it was fun. We ate what we wanted to eat. If we brought home any animal ever, there were a lot of strays around, but all animals were welcome. All children were welcome. Any mess we made, I'm sure this made my mother insane. He had workhorses. It was a farm, and it had been a farm for a long time, and so they still had horses that pulled plows, and they were huge workhorses, and they were very docile. So he would get them out. He and Philip would get them out into the barn lot, and we would put a ladder up on the side of these horses because we weren't tall enough, and we would climb up and slide down their tails. And he entertained us with things like that.
And we've got pictures someplace of probably 8 grandchildren on the back of Maud. You had Queenie, Buster, Bob, and Maud.
Yeah.
And Queenie was not kind. Queenie would bite you.
She was the mother.
Yeah, she would bite you. But and they were all big draft horses, so it was a lot of fun.
And he'd fire up the steam engine and drive it around. The steam engine is actually 100 years old this year, and Dan has it and still repairs and takes care of it, and he's taking it to the steam engine show. this year. If you haven't talked to the Spalding clan yet, they have tons of stories about all the different things. And it was fun when we came down because we had first cousins on the other side of the woods. So we would meet in the middle of the woods and play all day. It was a time where children had so much freedom. Story about Tom. We liked to go up in the hayloft in the barn and play, and his little legs were too short to get up there. And we're all children. We're not all that old. I'm the oldest of the crew. Well, we got him up there somehow, and I don't remember how we got him up there. I just remember we couldn't figure out how to get him down. So we tied a rope around under his shoulders, and that's what, 15 feet high, probably. And you asked about our mother, our poor delightful mother.
Our mother said she knew exactly what we were all doing all the time.
No. So she come. It's time for dinner, and we are all the kids in the hayloft are lowering because of course we don't have any strength. We're little, and we're lowering him on the rope over the edge. And my mother opens the barn door, and thank goodness she didn't scream because we might have let go. I know. See, you're a mother. You know how terrifying this is. You can imagine. He was what, 3 or 4? You were little. Maybe 2.
I was probably 3.
He was probably 2 or 3. I don't know. Anyway, we were lowering him down, so she didn't say anything. I'm sure her heart was beating fast. She came over, and as we lowered, she grabbed him. Yeah. So we had a wonderful time, wonderful childhood.
I can tell you personally that I know what it looks like on the inside of a threshing machine. So we used to crawl through there and found out that there are razor sharp blades inside those things. A lot of fun.
Tom, gunpowder was at our disposal.
Mm-hmm.
He blew his face up once making a little homemade bomb.
Made a homemade bomb and it backfired on him.
He was in the hospital a couple of days.
Yeah. I did.
A very adventuresome, delightful childhood.
We used to, and this was Grandpa's doing. The dynamite he'd purchase would go old after a bit and it'd start to leak, right? So he had to get rid of it. So he'd tell us to go get it and would bring out, and handling that stuff is dangerous, right? But we'd get it, would give it to him, and he'd take his pocket knife out. It was always a Barlow pocket knife, and he'd cut it into quarter sticks. And would take wine, or a piece of twine, and would tie it up, and would tie it from the trees in the orchard, which is the area that used to be apples and stuff from the house, the side porch to the log house. That used to be the orchard. And would dangle this quarter sticks of dynamite from the trees and would sit on the porch and shoot them.
Yeah.
And that's how you got rid of them, because it was, you knew when you hit it. It was boom, boom, right? So, and we were the only house, we were the only house there for a long while that did not have the Omar Bread Company delivery. Okay. Used to deliver regularly, but Bob Tingle, Jim Briggs, and some of his other varmint friends, I guess, would bring the old boarders out that were bored out for orange juice cans, and they'd cook dynamite off in the pasture, right over in the orchard, and the Omar Bread man would always pull into the lane right there by the log house, and they'd come through the gate, and they'd have one more gate to come into, but they were sitting there one day as they had a stick of dynamite cooking in the orchard, and they knew the Omar Bread man wouldn't be close enough to it by the time it went off, right? So they just didn't tell him it was out there. And as he came through the gate with his basket, right, it went boom. The basket went in the air. Stayed in the orchard. He didn't pick it up. He got in his truck and he left, and then for some reason we got delivery canceled.